السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده سبحانه وتعالى ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله الواحد الأحد الذي لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أرسله الله تعالى بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على وأشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، إن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تعالى وأحسن الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار ثم أما بعد. In today's society, oftentimes parents push their kids to a certain expectation of success. And kids growing up, we have this certain mindset of what is a successful person, right? Typically, it's if you get a good job, if you can own some real estate, you can own a house, you can own a car, you know, you have a family. If you can do these things, you're quote-unquote successful. And also in society, we're constantly looking at others. And we're not looking at them to, you know, hope good for them and to see what they're up to and, you know, saying like, congrats, man, I'm happy you got this. Rather, we're looking at them because we want to see where we're standing compared to them. That not only do I have to maintain the status quo of success, of getting these things, but I also have to be better than other individuals. That it's not just me being happy and successful and content, that no, I have to be better than others. I have to have a better job than these people. My wedding has to be more extravagant, more fancy than those people. So it's more than just that. And then you're looking at other people, and parents oftentimes, they, you know, say, why can't you be like this person? Or why can't you be like your cousin who did these things? And it really puts, you know, young people and people in general just in this state of, you know, questioning and confusion and a lot of time anxiety and a lot of times, you know, just, it's not great for their mental health. And today I'd like to go over a story from Surah Kahf, a surah that we're encouraged to recite on a weekly basis. And it is the story of the man with two gardens. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, and you know, the lessons in this story is very pertinent to us young people growing up, as well as just everyday individuals who go about their life and ask themselves, are they successful? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ الرَّجُلَيْنِ جَعَلْنَا لِأَحَدِهِمَا جَنَّتَيْنِ مِنْ أَعْنَابٍ وَحَفَفْنَاهُمَا بِنَخْلٍ وَجَعَلْنَا بَيْنَهُمَا زَرْعًا. He says, and we strike for them the example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He strikes the example of the man with two gardens. A man who He has given two gardens, جَعَلْنَا لِأَحَدِهِمَا جَنَّتَيْنِ مِنْ أَعْنَابٍ. Two gardens of grapevines, of grapes. And between those grapevines, He put up these palm trees. And in between the palm trees and the grapevines, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put much more vegetation. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He continues in the next ayah, He says, كِلْتَ الْجَنَّتَيْنِ آتَتْ أُكُلَهَا, that each of the gardens produced an immense amount of fruit. وَلَمْ تَظْلِمْ مِنْهُ شَيْئًا, and it did not come up short in any way, that it produced a lot and a lot of fruit. وَفَجَّرْنَا خِلَالَهُمَا نَهَرًا, and we have caused forth between these vegetations a bunch of rivers, a lot of water. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He spends, you know, these two ayats speaking just about the wealth of this one man. That there were these two men, and this one person, he had all of this wealth. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He mentions things in the Quran, He only mentions it because of, you know, how important it is. And there are times, you know, there are many stories in the Quran where Allah, He'll mention barely any details, but in biblical versions or in hadith, we find more information about those stories. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He spent two whole ayat in this story talking about just how wealthy this man was. And this man had another person that was with him, his companion. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions how that very wealthy man, he said to his companion, فَقَالَ لِصَاحِبِهِ وَهُوَ يُحَاوِرُهُ أَنَا أَكْثَرُ مِنْكَ مَالًا وَأَعَزُّ نَفَرًا. That man, he said to his companion, and it's very interesting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَهُوَ يُحَاوِرُ, while they were conversing. So a lot of times, you know, we do things very subtly. And the man, he says while conversing with his friends that I am greater than you in wealth and I am greater than you in number. Meaning the people I surround myself with, they're a cooler group or they're a more affluent group than the people you surround yourself with. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He points out the fact that a lot of times the arrogance we show is not very explicit. We're not going to go around saying someone like, hey, you know, I make XYZ much more money than you and you don't. Rather, it's very subtle. We'll say things like, hey, you know, my BMW takes up so much space in my garage. You know, what do you drive again? Like that Toyota Corolla, like it barely takes up any space, right? A lot of the times, the arrogance is very subtle. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He points out to that fact. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also points out to the fact that the last two ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that كِلْتَ الْجَنَّتَيْنِ, he says, وَحَفَفْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentions how he and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who has given that person all those blessings. But then that person, he says, أَنَا أَكْثَرُ مِنْكَ مَالًا وَأَعَزُّ نَفَرًا. He says that I am greater than you in wealth. Throughout those ayat, when Allah described his wealth, he says that we gave him this and we gave him that. And then this man, he turns around to his friend and he says that I am greater than you in wealth. So it goes to show just, how oftentimes, we forget the one who has given us all the things that we have. And then the story continues. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, وَمَا أَظُنُّ Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, وَدَخَلَ جَنَّتَهُ وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. That man who was very arrogant to his friend, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed with many things, he goes back, he enters his garden, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, وَهُوَ ظَالِمٌ لِنَفْسِهِ. That he is only wronging himself. By the fact that he was arrogant, by the fact that he was not acknowledging Allah, that didn't hurt Allah in any way. That he was only wronging himself. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he continues, and how this man, he says, قَالَ مَا أَظُنُّ أَن تَبِيدَ هَذِهِ أَبَدًا. That man said that I don't think that this will ever perish. And then the man, he continues, he even says, وَمَا أَظُنُّ سَاعَةَ قَائِمًا. That I don't think the day of judgment will occur. And this is something that happens when it's this phenomenon where good things are happening to us. We don't really think about Allah. We don't really think about the day of judgment. We don't really think that we're going to be held accountable, right? When things are going well, we don't really think of, religion and the afterlife. When things are bad, when we have a death, we think of Allah. We think of we think of the afterlife. We think about patience. But when things are going well, we don't really think of Allah, right? We just keep on going by our days. And this deludes us, this tricks us, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, ثُمَّ لَتُسْأَلُونَ يَوْمَئِذٍ عَنِ النَّعِيمِ. Now on that day you will be asked about all the good things that you had, all the blessings that you had, you will be asked about it. So to be cognizant of accountability when good things are happening to you as well is what this religion teaches. And then the ayat continue. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, and then the man who said that, he has all this wealth, and he's arrogant, he subtly, implies that he's better than his companion. He says that, I don't think any of my wealth, I don't think any of it will go away. And then he also says that, I don't think there's going to be a day of judgment. I don't think there's going to be an hour. Things are going so well for me. And it's very important in the story that when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says that, these are people with gardens, right? That man, he had 2 gardens. That garden is a literal garden, but for us, the benefit that we get from it, it's a metaphorical representation of all the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with, right? That garden represents the wealth that you have. That garden represents the health that you have. That garden represents the bodily physique that you have. That garden represents all the blessings that you have, all the talents, all the creativity, all of that is your garden. Right? And all of us are wealthy, right? No doubt about it. Even the people who are struggling here in America, relatively speaking to the rest of the world, we are very, very, very well off. So when you hear stories of people of wealth, people of that, don't think of the world's richest billionaire. Think of yourself. Think of myself and yourself. That we are all very wealthy, right? And that our wealth is not just limited to the money in our bank account, right? That our wealth is this ability for me to move my hand. It's the ability for me to have this health. It's the ability for me to be able to say these words, this intellect, right? All of that is your garden, right? And now you think about that man who had 2 gardens, and Allah spent 2 ayat speaking about just how wealthy, how much this man had. And then that man was so arrogant. That man, he subtly, implied that he was better than others. And that man was so tricked. He was so deluded. He was going about, and he had all these good things going for him. He was like, I don't think any of this thing will go away, man. And I don't think there's going to be a day of judgment. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he continues, that same man who says, I got things going for me. He says, وَلَئِن رُدِئْتُ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي لَأَجِدَنَّ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا مُنْقَلَبًا. That if I were to be returned to my Lord, that I would surely find better than what I have. And that's a common thing that, it's a common misconception that just because Allah gives you good in this world does not mean that Allah will give you good in the next world. And similarly so, if Allah gives you bad in this world, Allah does not give you a lot of risk, a lot of money, does not mean that Allah disgraces you, does not mean that Allah doesn't love you, right? And we don't judge, our status with Allah by the things that we have in this world. And the man, he says, again, that if I go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I will definitely find more than this, right? Because Allah loves me so much, He has given me so much. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it says in another ayat in the Quran, He says, فَأَمَّا الْإِنسَانُ إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ رَبُّهُ فَأَكْرَمَهُ وَنَعَّمَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَكْرَمَنِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, as for man, when he is tested with good and he is tested and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honors him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives him ni'mas and blessing, he says that Rabbi akraman, that my Lord has honored me. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says the other side, وَأَمَّا إِذَا مَا ابْتَلَاهُ فَقَدَرَ عَلَيْهِ رِزْقَهُ فَيَقُولُ رَبِّي أَهَانًا. And as for man, when he is tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala withholding his rizq, by Allah not giving him a lot of worldly possessions, he says that my Lord has disgraced me. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He negates that mentality. He says, Kalla, most definitely not. That is not how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judges who's better off in His sight. And then the surah continues. The man, he says that I don't think there's going to be a day of judgment, and that if there is, and if I do return to my Lord, I will definitely find better than what I had before. I will definitely find better than what I had in the worldly life. And then that companion who was quiet the whole time in the story, that companion who didn't get any mention of how wealthy he was, and then that same guy, he says to the arrogant man, he says, لَكِنَّهُ اللَّهُ رَبِّي, that nay, Allah, He is my Lord. وَلَا أُشْرِكُ بِرَبِّي أَحَدًا, and I don't associate anyone with my Lord, with Allah. And one may ask, there is no shirk going on, right? There is no association. That man, he was just saying that, I'm greater than you in wealth, and I'm greater than you and the people around me. Where is the shirk there? Where is the association there? But the association is the fact that he was worshiping himself. He was putting himself, that I did this. And he was acknowledging himself before Allah. And that is a form of shirk. That is a form of associating partners with Allah. And then you look at the etiquette of this man and how this man gave his brother advice. He didn't say, brother, what you're doing is wrong. You're going to enter the hellfire. He spoke about himself. He said, لَكِنَّهُ اللَّهُ رَبِّي, that no, Allah is my Lord. That he didn't go around accusing him. He was just speaking about himself. And there's this etiquette to advising someone. Maybe, you see your friend doing something wrong. You can be like, hey, man, I've noticed you've done X, Y, Z. Maybe me personally, I wouldn't have done these things because of X, Y, Z. Try to make it about yourself. When you're trying to give advice to someone, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He just depicts this beautiful image of how this man gives advice to his brother. He says, لَكِنَّهُ اللَّهُ رَبِّي. And oftentimes, we see people doing wrong things, and, instead of pointing fingers, maybe you can guide them in another way, right? Say that, if I were in this situation, I would do X, Y, Z. Because when someone is told what to do, they're not really a fan of that, right? That's from human beings' nature, that they would be defiant. They don't want anyone telling them what to do. There's going to be a day of judgment. That's when that companion was like, whoa, hold up, I have to say something now. Because not only is this man, ruining his worldly life, but he's ruining his afterlife. And that goes to show the amount of care that we should have for other individuals. That when we see someone who's ruining their afterlife, that's the care that we have. When we see someone who's straying from the religion or who's doing things that are totally, haram and inappropriate and that are harmful for themselves, on a religious level, but also on just a moral level. If you see someone who's like, doesn't care about his life or, is hanging around a bad group of people, you should be someone to say something, right? Of course, there's a religious aspect, and that is the most worthiest reason why you do things, but also just for a humane aspect, right? That you care about that person, and you care about that person's afterlife, and that you don't want this person to enter Jahannam, right? And that's true care, that's true brotherhood. For you to be able to say something despite the consequences, right? Despite the fact that your friend might be like, oh man, here comes that guy, he always talks to me about religion, or he always tries to give me advice. Despite that, the fact that that could happen, you care about that companion, you care about your friend, and you don't want him to go down this bad path, and you'll be looking out for him, and you're looking out for his afterlife, just like this companion was. The companion saw that that man was deluded, that man was arrogant, that man started caring about himself and thinking, that things were coming. That wealth in his garden led him to be deluded and to think that, Allah loved him, and that it led him to think that he was well off, and it also led him to, be arrogant. It led him to think that he was better than other individuals, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions how it happened on such a subtle aspect, right? And that it takes a deep level of introspection for an individual to look whether or not they really are arrogant or not. And that's what we ask ourselves, right? Because we all have gardens, and our gardens may be bigger than the gardens of this individual that Allah mentions in the Quran, right? So we ask ourselves, knowing that our garden consists of many things, the wealth that we have, the health, the creativity, the intellect, all those blessings that we have, do we think that we're better than others with that? And a lot of us won't blatantly say it, right? A lot of us won't explicitly just say that I'm better than you. But do the actions that we do the way we look at other individuals, do the way we address one individual as opposed to another individual, does that display a form of arrogance? And we really, really have to take an introspective look and to look very hard, right? Because Allah mentions how subtle it is, right? It happens over such a small conversation. And it takes, a huge amount of self-accountability and self-introspection for us to be critical about this. And this is imperative for us to do because we see just how subtle it is. And then that man, he notices that his companion is doing something that's going to affect his afterlife. That he's going down a very slippery slope, and that's when he goes about and he says something that, hey, be careful, man, or hey, this is what I think, this is what I do. He beautifies with Allah. Meaning that whenever you looked at the things that you have, all the blessings that you have, if only you said, whatever Allah wills, that all these things that I have, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La quwwata illa billah. There is no power, there is no might except with Allah. And Allah, He says in the Quran, كُلًّا نُمِدُّ هَؤُلَاءِ وَهَؤُلَاءِ مِنْ عَطَاءِ رَبِّكَ. He says that we give to one group certain things and another group things. Meaning to Muslims He'll give things, to non-Muslims He'll give things, to certain types of Muslims He'll give things, to one person He'll give something, to another person He'll give something. And He says all of it is min ata'i rabbik, from the gift, from the bounty of your Lord. That thing that you have, that's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that, blessing, that car, that house, whatever that person has, all of it is from min ata'i rabbik, from the bounty of your Lord. And Allah, He says, وَمَا كَانَ عَطَاءُ رَبِّكَ مَحْظُورًا, that the bounty, the gift of your Lord can never be restricted. For you to think that, this person has this, you can never stop Allah from giving that person those blessings, right? You can never stop Him. But at the same time, وَمَا كَانَ عَطَاءُ رَبِّكَ مَحْظُورًا, that the bounty of Allah is never restricted from you too. And that Allah that gave that person those things, that's the same Allah that can give you those things, right? But again, what we want is not always what's best for us, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what's best for us. And that's why we say, Masha Allah, whatever Allah wills. It reminds us to put our trust in Allah. It reminds us that the things that we have, all of it is from Allah. And that just like Allah gave you those things, He can take those things away from you. And then the verses continue. And one of the benefits we get from this ayat is that when we see someone who has a lot of blessings, we're encouraged to say, Masha Allah, la quwwata illa billah, because it's subhanahu wa ta'ala will give me something better than your garden. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He spends the next 3 ayat speaking about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could destroy the garden. That perhaps, perhaps some water might not come. Perhaps Allah will send something from the sky and it will make His garden a smooth, dusty ground. Or perhaps water will be sunken into the earth and He will never be able to get water and the garden will never grow. And Allah, He mentions many different ways in which the garden could be destroyed, just to show you the many different ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care of you. Just the many different ways that things can go wrong, that at one moment anything can go wrong. There are many different ways that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes care of you, right? The fact that you're able to walk here, the car didn't hit you, the fact that you're able to wake up this morning, the fact that you're able to have food. There are so many blessings that we have. The fact that things can go wrong in so many ways shows that Allah takes care of us in so many different ways. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions how that man's garden was destroyed. And then that man, he said, يَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أُشْرِكْ بِرَبِّي أَحَدًا. He says, woe to me, how I wish I never associated others with my Lord. And then that man had that regret, but the regret came after the fact. And after the fact, after the destruction, after the adhab, after the punishment, everyone is going to be regretful. When it's on that day, everyone is going to be regretful. But the key thing is to be regretful now before that day. The key thing is to make that change now before that day. The key thing is to change now before that event happens. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He shows us, this story for us to benefit from. And it seems like there is a horrible ending for this man, but problem in your ways so you can come closer to Him, and that is worth more than whatever thing that you lost. Closeness to Allah is worth more than everything and anything in this dunya. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentions a parable of this world. He says, وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا, and strike an example of the like of this world, كَمَاءٍ أَنزَلْنَاهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ, that it is like the rain that falls from the sky. كَمَاءٍ أَنزَلْنَاهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ فَاخْتَلَطَ بِهِ, and then it mixes with the vegetation on the earth. فَاخْتَلَطَ بِهِ نَبَاتُ الْأَرْضِ فَأَصْبَحَ حَشِيمًا تَذْرُوهُ الرِّيَاحُ, and then the rain, it comes from the sky, it mixes with the vegetation on this earth, it's nice, it's luscious and green, and then it becomes gray and like hay, and then it's blown by the wind. And Allah, He says that this is the example of this life. That this life is like this water that comes and it hits the grass, and then it's green, and is when good things happen to us, right? Allah, He says that this life is like water, meaning a little bit of this life is okay, but too much of this water is not good, right? When we have too much rain, it leads to a flood. Too much rain can lead to a tsunami, right? So just a little perfect amount of water is good for vegetation. Similarly, so this dunya, an appropriate, healthy amount is appropriate and is acknowledged by this religion, but too much of this dunya will destroy you. And then He continues, Lord, and they're better with your Lord in terms of hope in the next day. And what really matters is, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَى صُوَارِكُمْ وَأَمْوَالِكُمْ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He doesn't look at your form or your wealth, وَلَكِنْ يَنْظُرُ إِلَى أَعْمَالِكُمْ وَقُلُوبِكُمْ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He looks at your actions and He looks at your heart. So we ask ourselves, what are the actions that we engage ourselves in? Are we engaged in righteous deeds and caring about other individuals and being considerate and being thoughtful and giving back to others? Or are we only thinking about ourselves? Ask ourselves, what is our garden benefiting? Are we the only people who benefit from our gardens? Or are our gardens expansive? Our gardens help those who need help and those who don't need help? Ask ourselves, what is our gardens? And how do we think of ourselves with our gardens? And what are we doing with our gardens? We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability to acknowledge Allah as the one who has given us all that we have. Pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability to use those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us for His cause. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability to humble ourselves. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prevents arrogance in our hearts, even the slightest bit. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability to acknowledge the wrong that we have done. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability to truly not be boastful or put anyone down. And we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability to treat others as we would like to be treated ourselves. رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ.
الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Please turn up the lines, fill up all the gaps. Please fill up all the gaps. There's space by the windows if anyone needs space. Please try to be as accommodating as possible. Please turn up all the lines, fill up all the gaps. There's still space in the back by the windows. If anyone needs space, please head towards the windows. Allahu Akbar. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم أنا أكثر منك مالا وأعز نفرا ودخل جنته وهو ظالم لنفسه قال ما أظن أن تبيد هذه أبدا وما أظن الساعة قائمة ولئن رددت إلى ربي لأجدن خيرا منها منقلبا فقال له صاحبه وهو يحاوره أكفرت بالذي خلقك من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم سواك رجلا لكن هو الله ربي ولا أشرك بربي أحدا ولولا إذ دخلت جنتك قلت ما شاء الله لا قوة إلا بالله إن ترني أنا أقل منك مالا وولدا فعسى ربي أن يؤتيني يا ليتني لم أشرك بربي أحدا. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده ربنا ولك الحمد حمدا كثيرا طيبا. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ولم تكن له فئة ينصرونه وكان الله على كل شيء مقتدرا. المال والبنون زينة الحياة الدنيا والباقيات الصالحات خير عند ربك ثوابا وخير أملا. الله. سمع الله لمن حمده ربنا ولك الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
So our khatib today was Brother Ma'moon Rayhan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He rewards him well. Ameen. We have our... One second. So last Sunday, alhamdulillah, we started our first day of our FCAD summer semester of Islamic Studies and Arabic, alhamdulillah. The Islamic Studies class that we're having is Family Matters. We started last Sunday, we had our free breakfast, alhamdulillah. It was a great session. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to benefit all of the students and to keep us all sincere, ameen. Last week was last Sunday was the first session. That was the free day. You would have to register for the class, inshallah ta'ala, to move forward. But registration is still open currently. So I highly recommend that you guys take advantage of that opportunity, inshallah ta'ala. So as I mentioned, the Islamic study class that we're having is Family Matters. Family Matters is a course in which you deal with all of the issues of the family in general. So alhamdulillah, last Sunday we spoke about marriage, we spoke about what a marriage is, and we spoke a little bit in brief about what are some of the steps that you would take in order to find a spouse. Because finding a spouse in Islam, that's how you start the actual marriage process. And with the couple coming together, with the husband and wife coming together, you have the children, and then the family actually starts. So we're starting at the very beginning stages of family, right? All of the seats are filled up. So we will, inshallah ta'ala, start next week. It's starting on July 9th. That's this Monday. It's a program that's going to be from Monday to Thursday, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to start as I mentioned. So inshallah ta'ala, you can take advantage of this opportunity when it comes around next year, inshallah ta'ala. As I mentioned before, the seats, they were going very fast. Alhamdulillah, you guys took advantage of that opportunity. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward you all and to benefit you and your children with this program. Ameen. We're starting with our Saturday children's program, inshallah ta'ala, this September. This is a program that's going to be every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's going to start September 15th. Students will be engaged in different topics and different activities, such as Islamic studies, Arabic, tafsir and tajweed, as well as sports and activities. Like I said, the summer is off. We're going to start back, inshallah ta'ala, September 15th. Registration is open, so you can register your kids if you haven't done so already. So make sure you contact the Masjid office with the number stated on the screen, or you can contact them through the email as well. Wellspring Elementary, Middle, and High School is currently still accepting applications. All of the seats have not been filled up yet. You could possibly send your child to this school for $1,695 for the entire year. This is not a price for everybody, right? Make sure that you guys understand that this is not a price for everybody, but you must apply. You must find out if you're eligible for this, inshallah ta'ala. So you can apply online. You can contact the school for more information with the information that you see on the screen, inshallah. The Masjid Eesa phone number has been changed, so the details about our expansion you can find on that website, and we're constantly updating that website as well, so that you guys can keep up to date about the expansion project. Inshallah ta'ala, this Monday night, we're going to continue with our Monday Night Boost. This is a weekly program where we're explaining the 40 hadith of Imam An-Nawawi. Alhamdulillah, last Monday we had the explanation of the 8th hadith. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to be discussing the 9th hadith, the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiallahu ta'ala anhu. The 9th hadith will be discussing that hadith, inshallah. And it's going to be after Salat al-Maghrib. So make sure that you join us for that program, inshallah ta'ala. Refreshments will be served as well. The other program that we're having is Quran Refresh. This is a weekly program every Wednesday after Salat al-Maghrib. You guys should be well aware of this program by now. Please join us this Wednesday, inshallah. It's a program where the community is reciting the Quran from cover to cover with Imam Nuh. Alhamdulillah, we have finished as a community. The brothers that have come to the program, we finished over half of the Quran. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll be finishing very soon with the help of Allah Azza wa Jal. We are also continuing our free community program, Gardens of the Righteous with Imam Nuh. He's giving his wonderful explanation of Riyadh al-Salihin every night after Salat al-Isha. So please join us for Salat al-Isha and for this great, beautiful reminder after the Salah every night, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khairan wa salamu alaykum wa rahmatullah.